Serenity. For 78 years, 2218 has been a self supporting home to recovery. Our main source of income is our membership. We encourage you to become a pledging member. Feel free to see me, Eric, or Annette after the meeting to learn more about this opportunity. The second way 2218 is self supporting is through our own contributions. We will now pass the basket for the seventh tradition. I've asked Jolene to pass the basket. Thank you, Jolene. Donations help to keep our lights on, heating and air conditioning, water and sewer, and maintaining the building, which was originally built in 1887. As we pass the basket, please silence your cell phone and all electronic devices. Just a couple announcements. So Recoveroki is back now on Fridays with a limited capacity of 30 people. Masks are required Friday here at 9:30 p.m. Ride for Recovery is our biggest fundraiser of the year, and that's coming up June 26th, 2021. Wristbands are going to be $20 in advance, just like last year. 25 day of the event. They include all the things that last year included. It's going to be the party of the year, I think. And then September 11th is 2021 as well. We have the Pat Cronin birthday bash. I have asked Antoine to do the preamble. Nope, Jeremiah's got the preamble. Please come up here and read the preamble. So we get you on the live stream.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever spoken to a microphone before.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for a membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions, spelling error right there. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety.
Thanks, Jeremiah.
And I've asked Antoine to come up and read how it works.
Hello, everybody. My name is Antoine. I am an addict. How it works. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to this simple program. Usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. They are such unfortunates. They are not at fault. They seem to be have been born this way. They are naturally incapable of grasping and developing a manner of living which demands rigorous honesty. Their chances are less. They are average. These are those who suffer from grave emotional and mental disorders, but many of them do not have. Many of them do recover if they have the capacity. To be honest, our stories disclose in a general way what we used to be like, what happened, and what we are like now. If you have decided you want what we have to offer, and what we have, and willing to go to any length to get it, then you are ready to take certain steps. At some of these we balk. We thought we could find an easier, softer way, but we could not. With all the earnestness at our command, we beg of you to be fearless and thorough from the very start. Some of us have tried to hold on to our old ideas, and the result was not until we let go absolutely. Remember that we deal with alcohol, cunning, baffling, and powerful. Without help, and is too without help, it is too much for us. But there is one who has all power. That one is God. May you find him now. Half measure avails us nothing. We stood at the turning point. We asked his protection and care with complete abandonment. Here are the steps we took, which I suggested in the program of recovery. Number one, we admitted that we was powerless over addiction, that our lives had become unmanageable. Two, we came to believe that power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Three, we made a decision to turn our will and our lives, excuse me, and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. Four, we made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Five, we made it to God, to ourselves, and to another human being, the exact nature of our wrongs. Five, we made it to God, to ourselves, to another human being, the exact nature of our wrongs. Six, we were entirely ready to remove all these defects of character. Seven, we humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. Eight, we made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Nine, we made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so we injured them or others. 10, we continue to take personal inventory, and when we was wrong, properly admitted it. 11, we sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying on Him for the knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to addicts and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Many of us exclaim, "What an order! I can't go through with it." Do not be discouraged. No one among us has been able to maintain anything like perfect adherence to these principles. We are not saints. The point is that we are willing to grow along spiritual lines. The principles that we have set down are guides to progress. We claim spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. Our description of alcoholic, the chapter to the agnostic, and our personal adventures before and after make clear three pertinent ideas. A, that we were alcoholic and could not manage our own lives. B, that probably no human power could relieve our alcoholism. C, that God could and would if He was so. Thank you for letting me read. Thank you.
Okay, I am very happy to introduce our speaker tonight, sharing his story for the very first time ever, is Matt T. Yay.
I'm Matt, and I'm an alcoholic. So on May 24th, I will have 4 years. So we're not there yet, but and my first ever meeting would have been something like May 28th or something like that. Noon at Jitters, sat underneath the promises, just about 4 years ago. And, you know, at that time, that was the first time that I ever admitted that I was an alcoholic openly, publicly, and wasn't saying it in jest. At the time, I'm not sure I really believed it still, or really, you know, understood the gravity of what it meant. But you know, up to that point, life was not great, as I'm sure everybody in this room can relate to. You know, I was just unhappy. I was frustrated. I was depressed. I was not suicidal, but it was right on that edge where I could have been. And, you know, today it's a completely different story. But, you know, I probably started drinking, or I started drinking, not probably, I started drinking when I was, I think, 17. You know, not really that young, especially in today's world. And at the time, I maybe overdrank sometimes, but I'm not sure that I was an alcoholic then. But going into the start of my drinking career, I wasn't the happiest person, which I'd imagine, led to the 15 or 16 years of drinking that I had. Before I even started drinking, I kind of felt alone in the world sometimes. I didn't feel like I quite fit in anywhere. And it, I had friends, but I don't know, it just nothing really seemed to fit. And the social interactions, I never could quite get down. And then I started drinking, just socially at first, like I'm sure a lot of us have, can relate to. And it seemed to help. I never, as far as I know, my personality didn't change drastically from drinking to not drinking. I think, definitely my inhibitions went away. I got out of my own way, by, when I was drinking. I wasn't as nervous because I was so self-conscious about what was going on in here. The irony is that it came back around 15 years later, tenfold, but, and I just kind of kept going with life. It was all going well. I, drank when I wanted to. It hung over sometimes, but I was, a teenager in my early 20s. None of that really mattered. I could get through that. I could work hungover. No, but it didn't bother me too much. Not sleep for, days on end. But it eventually, did catch up to me. I can look back now, when I went through it, when I was going through it, in my teens and early 20s, I thought I was fine. I wasn't necessarily happy, but I thought I was fine. I had an incident, would have been New Year's of my freshman year of college, New Year's 2004 rather. I had I don't know, did some drugs because they were there, drank a lot of alcohol, ended up in the hospital for a couple of days. I think my friends and the frat that I was at were more worried about getting sued than anything else. But I didn't really see that as any sort of sign. I'm like, oh, I just got a little excited one night. That's all. I just overdid it. I'm fine. At the time, my dad really wanted me to see a counselor about it, see a therapist of some kind. So I did. I told him what I thought he wanted to hear. I didn't tell the truth, or at least not all of it, because I wanted to just get in and out of there and not have to deal with any more drama with it. And eventually the guy's like, well, if you don't need me, then I guess we're done here. And then I switched schools to try and, run away from more of my problems, just because I was getting to that point where the sadness and those feelings of loneliness were starting to creep back in. The alcohol wasn't able to cover it anymore. My self-conscious side and my dislike for my own self was starting to get bigger. So, at the time I was down at Drake in Des Moines going to school. And then I transferred up here so that I could have a new setting. I don't know. It wasn't working for me down there. And for whatever reason, I thought that maybe it would up here. I don't know. Now academically, it actually did. I did do better in school. I probably drank a little bit less, as part of it though. And eventually though, it just kind of went back to the way it was, where I was drinking most nights. I got my own room again, so that made it a lot easier to do whatever the hell I wanted. And I kind of became, my room was the spot where you went to get usually rum, but it was just kind of the thing I was known for. And then as years progressed in college, I met new friends. I, more or less did the same thing over and over and over again. I did well enough in school, but not as well as I could have, and I knew it, which annoyed the hell out of me that I wasn't living up to the own or the potential that I set for myself, which just helped me to want to drink more, to kind of forget about it. And eventually that's somewhere in there is where I think my alcoholism really took hold. I couldn't tell you where or when, but I think it was somewhere in college that is when I really became a full-blown alcoholic. Maybe I was born that way, maybe I wasn't. Whatever the difference is, it doesn't matter. Eventually that's the way I was. And it's interesting that the different friends that I made and lost over the years, but the one thing that seemed to remain the constant with all those was that I was there to have a good time, and that if anybody wanted to have a good time and didn't have somebody to hang out with, I would sit there and drink with you, do shots, do whatever with you. Didn't really care who you were or what we were drinking or what we were doing. I would just do it because it was fun, or it was a way for me to get away from my own self before I even realized it. But I progressed into my mid and late 20s, where I went into the real world. I was lucky enough to retain most of my friends or a good chunk of my friends from college, make some new ones, and I had a good job, or decent enough job, right away out of school. I mean, it helped that I was working for family, so I kind of had to do my own hours. Had a lot of autonomy, which really helped when I was hungover and wanted to come in late, or not at all. Eventually that my dad kind of got wise and started putting rules in place. But for the most part, I could kind of do whatever I wanted and get away with it, and I did. And all the while, those thoughts of loneliness and just not being enough, and hating myself and hating my life were all still there in the background. They never really went away. I never actually tried to deal with them because it's easier just to avoid them. I know there's some days that I still wish that I could, but I know that I know better now. And anyway, in my 20s, it was a good time, but everybody else, all my friends, as I got into my late 20s and my 30s, all my friends, or most of them, started to quote unquote grow up. I still went out to the bars every 4 or 5 days a week. Most of my friends maybe went out once or twice, and they didn't go as hard as I ever did. So I ended up making new friends that were younger, who would. And that just kind of went in a cycle for, till my early 30s, where, it all, I don't know, it's all seemed to snowball. I started to dislike work. I've been working in the same field for, by that point, 8 years or so, and I don't know, I didn't like going to work. I don't know if it was the actual work or the fact that I had to get up and do something because I was hungover as fuck most of the time. But I just hated going to work. I hated doing anything besides going to the bar or sitting in my living room playing video games, taking shots or whatever. And at the end of the night, I would kind of sit there, have a cigarette, and realize that I was wasted. And all of my feelings of loneliness and negativity and hatred for myself and my life would kind of hit me all at once. And, you know, the last, I don't know, 6 months, a year that I was drinking, I never really tried to quit, ever. You know, sometimes I would half quit or, you know, try and get it under control, but I never tried to quit. And I would just sit there and cry, mostly, and just kind of wallow in my own self-pity at the state of my life and the fact that I wasn't doing anything about it. And I make plans to do something, and then the next day would come and I either purposely forgot about it or was so drunk I didn't remember, or like just blocked it out of my memory, the fact that it even happened, any plans I made, any intentions I had, and I just went back and did the same thing over again. And eventually, you know, 3 DUIs later, and several hospital visits later, I was forced to make a decision. I could go to DUI court, which is like a 18-month program, kind of like drug court, if you know what that is. That's all recovery based and just to try and turn your life around. Or I could go to jail for, you know, the workhouse for, I don't know, two months maybe, and probably get work release and just kind of keep going the way I was. That was an actual debate for me, which one I wanted to do. You know, all my friends and family wanted me to get help and get better, and I think they all recognized that if I just went the workhouse route, that nothing would change. It'd just be the same old, same old. And you know, I had a good friend. I can't remember what he said now anymore, but he told me something that just, you know, he, I don't know, maybe it was just the fact that he cared about me, even though I wasn't always very good to him. But whatever it was he said, convinced me that I should at least try and see what happens if I do take the recovery route. You know, if I do the DUI court, go to meetings, don't drink for 18 months. I mean, at the end of the day, I could always go back. And that's when I started coming here. And, you know, I still wasn't happy. I still wasn't really ready to live life or willing to do much of anything. You know, I had to move out of where I lived at the time because my friends honestly got tired of fucking living with me and dealing with my shit, picking me up from the police station or off the ground or whatever. And so they moved in with other people, and I was kind of left to my own devices. Luckily, I had a friend take me in. And, you know, part of that was being sober. I had to be sober. And he tells me at the time, as he was living with his girlfriend, and I got to know her very well. And she told me that they were very nervous, or she was very nervous about me moving in, because she had heard stories about my drinking history and quite frankly didn't want to be a part of that. which I can't blame her. And I think that she would today say that she had nothing to worry about. But it took work to get there. You know, I started, like I said, I started coming to this building in, what was it, 2017. And I think there's maybe been 4 weeks in that time where I didn't hit at least one meeting here. You know, I started working with the sponsor right away. I got lucky in that respect. You know, with the DUI court program, they make you make you get a sponsor, and they make you go to 3 meetings a week and go to court every week and then every 2 weeks and whatnot. But I knew that I didn't want to get yelled at by the judge again for not having a sponsor yet, so I just kind of said yes to this first person that walked up and asked if I had a sponsor and if I wanted to maybe start a conversation. And you know, I got really lucky with that because he was unlike somebody that I really met before, worked with before, interacted with before, and I think that's what I needed. You know, and I worked. He made me take a look at myself, which, you know, my friends had tried to do before, but not in the same way, for whatever that means. You know, he made me take a look at where I was in life, where I wanted to be, and you know, showed me, you know, or helped me recognize some of the areas that that I was blind to. Helped me be a part of this community. You know, when I first started coming to meetings, I was quiet. I still don't talk much in meetings, but even, you know, after the meeting, I didn't really talk to people. I didn't really hang out, didn't really know many people. Luckily now it's different. You know, I am the secretary, or not secretary, I'm the secretary of the squad council, but I am the treasurer of Jitters now. You know, at one point I was the chair of the meeting. You know, it's changed quite a bit. You know, but it, like I said, it took a lot of work to get there, more so than I think I realized going through it. You know, like I said, I went to meetings every week, multiple meetings a week, and without that, I never would have been able to get sober or stay sober. And I gave back. You know, I started by, when I was new in recovery, I was the greeter a lot of times, or I helped clean up. I never made coffee though, because I don't drink coffee, so I didn't think that it was quite appropriate. And I also didn't really I'm like, how much coffee do I actually put in there? Yeah. I still don't really know. But, you know, and I just, you know, I ran a meeting, or I trusted servants, a meeting for a while. Kind of hated it, not gonna lie. It was a night meeting, and we'd have anywhere from like 3 to maybe 10 people. So it sometimes got a little slow. And I felt awkward, I'm like, well, we've all talked for like 15 minutes apiece, so should we just end it now, or? But you know, that all helped me get comfortable, not just within recovery, within my community, but with the person that I was starting to become, with the sober person. You know, so much of my persona, so much of the person that I was was wrapped up in drinking, was wrapped up in being an alcoholic. And part of me was proud of that, at least when I was in it. I liked being the person that people could just hang out with and could go from group to group, knew everybody at every single bar we went to. I enjoyed that. I relished that. At the end of the day, though, no, that really wasn't important. It was not much value there. And I had to basically relearn who I was and who I wanted to be. And, but the volunteering helped me do that. Coming to these meetings helped me do that. And, working the steps helped me do that. The first two steps, I really didn't formally work. The first time, or right away rather. My first time that I met with my sponsor, he had already started working with a couple of other gentlemen at the same time, and we were all kind of meeting small group together and kind of going to go through the process together. They had met with him like a week prior or something like that, and had kind of read up on and studied and discussed a little bit those first step 1 and step 2. And so I kind of came in a little bit late, and I'm like, yeah, sure. Well, I understand that. That's fine. It works. I don't need to sit and discuss it, which I don't think I necessarily did, but it was just kind of, I felt like I was skipping a step a little bit still. But I've run a lot of first step meetings since that time. I used to go to a meeting on Friday nights, and that was usually what I did, was I ran the first step meeting. And that was interesting because, every week I start the meeting off with, hi, I'm Matt, I'm an alcoholic. And I tell a little part of my story about, the way I was before, the step and how it how it affected me, and how I am now. So I'd give more or less the same talk in 30 seconds or a minute, which is why it's a little bit difficult for me to do it all at once for a long time, because I'm not used to talking about myself for this long. But without those first step meetings, I'm not sure I really would have had that I helped run. I'm not sure I would have had as good of a grasp on the first step as I do. And understanding the gravity of it. And then I did my 4th step, and then I really understood. And then I really understood that I really was an alcoholic, that, there's probably no going back for me, because I just end up, in the gutter again, figuratively, emotionally, whatever, literally. And I knew that is not where I wanted to be. I had had enough of sobriety, or of being sober, to recognize that I didn't want to go back. I hadn't quite figured out who I was yet, what I wanted. I wasn't happy, but didn't hate myself anymore. And then, like I said, then that 4th step hit, and it all started to make sense. I actually, that was the first time in my life that I had actually taken a look at my own actions and saw how what I did affected other people, and saw how my own brain had manipulated myself, if you will, into thinking that people were out to get me, or people were being disrespectful, when the reality was they either set their their own boundaries, healthy or otherwise, or I literally just made stuff up in my head. Um, the weird part is nowadays I think about, I'm like, wait, did I make that up in my head or did it actually happen? I still am not sure sometimes. And after that, it that was kind of, my aha moment, if you will. It all started to click. It all started to make a little bit more sense. And as I got more comfortable, just as time went by, and I got more comfortable with who I was, and had a better idea of what I wanted to do with my life, work, which I used to hate, started to become fun again. I actually liked it, which told me that it was never about the work. It was always about my own, what was going on up here, when I got to work, that made me not like it. And and more, or so many other things in life, just hanging out with different groups of friends that sometimes I didn't enjoy it. It was all, I started to realize that was all up here. And I had spent so many years avoiding that. And I finally had an opportunity to do something about it. I, after the fourth step, continued working the steps, continued just being a part of the Jitters community specifically, but just recovery in general. I got sober friends. Didn't quite hang out in the same fashion with my old friends, even though a good deal of them were actually very supportive. I was really lucky in that respect that family and friends were very much behind me and willing to maybe not, do sober activities with me always, but at least, if I saw them, not offer me a drink. But at least they would give their, you know, emotional support as much as they could, from a distance. And I just, oh, it's a whole new world, or it became a whole new world for me. And I don't think that I ever imagined that I would be standing up here, for example. I mean, I spent a good probably 2 years avoiding it, avoiding having to get up and share my story in this fashion. And then after enough poking and prodding from my sponsor, somebody finally asked again, and I'm like, you know what, I should finally do this. Get it off my chest, or get it off the to-do list. Because the only way that, this is what I've been told, and this is what I believe. The only way that I can continue to stay sober, especially now that I'm done, I've worked all the steps, gone through 1 through 12, a couple of times actually. The only way that I can continue to kind of have a true say in who I am and where I'm going and stay sober is if I continue to work with my community, work with other people in recovery, work with my sponsees, work with my sponsor, and give back, whether it be speaking like this, or working with the people, helping to kind of run my home group, or working with squad council, or volunteering here at 2218. It's how I can continue on and not have that daily reprieve from the need to drink alcohol, or to do any sort of drug. And it's how I can stay sane. It's how I can stay happy. and keep the people that I love in my life and not disappoint myself, even though I do all the time still. But that's something I'm still working on. Probably will be for life, but nobody's perfect. Even though my girlfriend says I am sometimes. And that's all I can really do. And for now, I haven't drank today. I'll go to bed tonight at some point. Hopefully not drink before then. Don't think I will. And then, I'll start it again the next day, tomorrow. Just not drink for that period that I'm awake, and go play some D&D, hang out with my sober crew tomorrow, and that'll be that. So, I don't know. That'll pass.
Okay, thank you, Matt, again so much for sharing your experience, strength, and hope with us. Thank you to all of our readers and the people who also helped set up chairs. And if we could all collectively help put away chairs and set up the tables for jitters tomorrow as well. Everyone is welcome to remain after the meeting. Thank our speaker, visit with each other. Please help me close this meeting with the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us for our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom